All right, on this episode of True Law Stories, we're going to talk about immigration, asylum, and accidents. I've got Roshni Patel. Roshni, say hi.
Hi.
And Roshni went to law school twice. We're going to talk about why she had to do that and why she's so much smarter for it now, why it's not easy for immigrants to come to the U.S., the types of asylum, especially for persecution and abuse, and why abuse is harder to escape in other countries. The three most important, or the most important evidence in winning asylum, as well as the process of finding out when someone finds out that they have received asylum. It's pretty crazy. And how scary that whole process is, and the truth about frivolous asylum cases. All this on True Law Stories. And of course, this is brought to you by videocasestory.com. One of the best ways to grow your business, whatever your type of business, from a law practice to a roofing company to a digital agency, is through customer stories. You go to casestory.com, or we'll show you how to get more referrals. 13 more ways to get more referrals with Video Case Story. So go to videocasestory.com/bigfish to learn more. All right, let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about all the places you've been and all the types of places you've practiced law.
Sure thing. So my background is I was born in India. So I lived in India with my family, and then we migrated to United Kingdom. So I was living in London. The whole family moved there. I did my studies there. I did my A-levels. I did my law school over there. And the family background is that everybody in my family is a lawyer. So my dad was a lawyer, my brother's a lawyer, and then I turned out to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a dentist, but then again, so it's a family route. I took the family route. I was then working at a couple of central London downtown offices. I wanted to get that experience. They used to do a lot of real estate, family law, so all different types of law. So I got the gist of how every single law works. But ultimately, I joined my dad's law firm. So it became a family business. I used to practice immigration, personal injury, and a little bit of family law at the law firm. Then life happened, marriage happened, and I then moved to United States. So I got married, and then I had to move to United States and in Florida. Now, the funny thing is, I think some people don't know that, but every state has a different law school requirement. For example, if he was located in New York, I could just take a bar exam on my foreign degree and I can be an attorney practicing immigration there. But Florida did not like that. So I had to then go to law school again for 3 years, pass the bar exam, and here I am. So I passed the bar exam in 2020 and became an attorney then.
Wow. Wow. You had to go to law school twice.
I went to law school twice, yes. It was either me or it was my husband. So my husband's a pharmacist in India. He then came to United States. He became a pharmacist again. So it was like, no, I'm not coming to the United Kingdom and going to the pharmacy school again. So it's you.
Wow. And so you passed the bar, and did you go and you went to practice for yourself right away?
No, I was actually working as an immigration attorney in a prominent downtown Orlando law firm. So I worked there for, I want to say, about a year. And then I actually became pregnant. So then I was going to open my own firm in the future. That was a plan, but I always like to make sure that I have an experience, how to deal with clients, how to deal with cases before I take that step. I became pregnant, and then rest is history. So my husband, okay, that was a plan. Why don't you just open your own firm, work from home while you can, and then you'll have a baby. By the time the baby turns certain age, you will have an established practice.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot on your hands right now, but but immigration. What drew you to immigration law?
I think personally, my experience of how I, from a very young age, migrated to different countries, and how the time, the energy, the work, the struggle that it takes a person to finally settle in a country that's not your home country, that kind of guided me into seeing the struggles of an immigrant. While I was studying, my father was an immigration attorney in the United Kingdom. So I was seeing the cases. So I grew up watching that. I grew up learning that. And I think it's people's struggle, people's willingness to settle in a different country. Being an attorney and helping them, guiding with the right advice helps.
And there's obviously immigration is a very hot topic right now. What do you think people's biggest misconceptions are of people immigrating to the US and how easy it is and the types of people that are coming here?
Let me tell you my recent experiences. A lot of people are crossing the border right now. People think that coming and crossing the border as soon as they enter the United States is going to be very easy for them to find work, to settle into the lifestyle, to integrate into the United States system. It's not true. You don't get a driver license. You don't get work permit authorizations right away. It takes a year until you are eligible for some sort of relief. Imagine somebody who spends money, or imagine somebody who just came and crossed the border with their family, but you don't have any help or support, or no mode of transport, or no mode of communication, a language barrier as well. So it's very difficult. You cannot straight away just start a life here. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes money, it takes a right legal guidance for you to integrate or apply for even some relief.
Yeah. And a lot of people come here not just for work, but they come here for asylum too. Can you describe that a little to me? And you have a few stories of that too.
Sure. Asylum. So the type of relief in asylum is when a person who is persecuted based on your religion or your race, your gender, or you come in one type of, or you are in one type of social group. For example, let's say somebody is persecuted that is threatening to their lives, persecuted based on that they're from an LGBT community, or they are from a particular religion, like for example, Muslim religion or Christianity religion, in a country where there's a harm to their life just because they belong into that community. Those people can come here and ask for an asylum based on the fact that there's a past, present, or future persecution based on the group that I'm included in. So a lot of people, we see a lot of cases recently in Venezuela, when there was an issue, Haiti, there's a lot of issues of political unrest going on right now. So those people would be the best people who can come here in the US and apply for asylum based on the political unrest or that they belong into that certain group.
Gotcha. And what other types of, and when these cases come through, and I've seen like you have family law cases going on at the same time too, right? Where people are asylum here, but also being persecuted or harmed by their spouse in another country.
That's correct. Yes. Like how I was saying that I had a case where an individual sought for asylum. So she was here in the US. She came to the US. She flew from Egypt to the US just to ask for asylum based on the fact that she belonged in a group where she was married to somebody and she was being abused by her husband. It was a domestic violence issue. But she went through so much. She had so much evidence to show the abuse, and where the country that she came from, she belonged into that one of the social group of women who were being abused by their husband. She sought an asylum and she was granted asylum within 4 months. Her story was that she was married to one of the person that she knew. The husband actually approached her. She was studying in a university in Cairo. Husband approached her, everything was fine. The family were very happy about it. Suddenly, as soon as they get married, everything changes for them. So the husband was not very loving. Of course, there was physical abuse, physical violence. Even when she was pregnant with their baby, there was physical violence. There were numerous police reports. In some countries, there is a lot of corruption. So even though, and because of their links and connections to higher officials, she was not able to do anything about it. She was sent home. After the report was filed, they would call the husband that, hey, a report has been filed for your arrest. They would just send the woman home, and then she would go back into that abusive world again. She had her family here in the US. So she had a sister in the US. She came here, gave birth to one of her son here, and then she went back to her country. So one of the son or the daughter was a US citizen. But she would come here. She wanted to settle here. She was studying for a pharmacy school years old. So she wanted to progress into her life and have a future for her. But the abusive relationship just took everything away from her. So finally, she decided that enough is enough. She had kids. The kids were very scared when the father was abusing the wife in front of them. So I think she took that step to do it for her kids. And she moved to the United States and applied for asylum.
And that's not an easy thing to do, is it?
It's not, especially without any support. I think being a woman, I do understand that, how hard it is to break out of that relationship that you saw everything you felt that the person was your own, and you having babies and kids with them, like something will change, but it never does. And finally, I think it's still in this world, in this century, being a single mother is still very difficult in certain countries, and they don't take that step to break out of that. It's still been seen as a taboo.
Yeah. Oh, and leaving all your family, all of that's got to be difficult, and everything you've known, and also speaking another language. And so when you first heard about this case and you were taking it on, what were your immediate thoughts?
My immediate thoughts were, why did you take this long? Why did you suffer for this long? I think she was in an abusive relationship for, I think, more than 7 years, having 3 kids. So 7 years, and you just keep going and going, and there's no way out. Even though she came to the US to visit, she would still go back. I was like, why didn't you stay here? Why didn't you do something for yourself? But at that time, when you, as you mentioned, the families are involved, it's something that how would your family react to it? If you say, I want a divorce, or I do not want to live with him anymore. I don't know if she told her family about the abuse. I'm pretty sure she did. But even after telling your family that my husband is abusive to me, you still are expected to live with that person. That's just, I could not understand or believe that.
Yeah, and there are culture in certain cultures and familiar cultures. It's not just overarching cultures. It's certain families that's just part of their culture, and it's sad. So you get this case, and what was involved in winning her asylum?
When you file an asylum, I think the main and the most important piece of evidence is a personal statement. So the personal statement is about what happened to you. Why are you applying for asylum? Why do you think there's a threat to your life? You have to explain from the beginning till the end as to what led you to come to the United States and ask for an asylum. So the story has to be not the story, but what happened to her has to be credible. And when you submit that personal statement, for example, if you said that he abused me on so date and I went ahead and filed a police report, if you say that, then you have to make sure that you supplement the police report with the petition, because it's just saying something and showing something is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
We then supplemented a lot of evidence to what her personal statement said, and she had that evidence, which is good. Sometimes people just flee their country without any documents, and that's the cases that I'm most worried about, because I know how genuine that case is, but you don't have anything to show or prove that the abuse or the persecution did happen. And I also believe that one of the main things that led to her approval was her credibility as a witness, as a victim. But she was called for an interview. Usually what happens in asylum cases is they go on forever and ever. It can take up to 10 years or 5 years or 16 years. Some cases have been pending for even longer than that. But her case, when we filed her case, she was called for an interview in Miami within 4 months, which is very fast and quick. We did not expect that. So she went to the interview, and the officer asked her all the questions based on what was on her personal statement and what was in her asylum petition. And she also took her son, who actually witnessed the abuse, and he was very scared of the husband, along with her. Usually officers don't ask questions to minors, but they did ask a couple of questions to her son as well. So I think when she presented, I did not attend the interview with her, but when the client goes in, when the applicant goes in and presents themselves, and the officer sees how genuine they are based on their credibility, I think that worked for her.
Wow.
The officer could have seen how genuine and how scared, even the son, how scared he is.
And were there any hiccups, or was she granted asylum pretty quickly?
No, so her decision was pending. So the officer said that you have to come back on date to the office to get a copy of the decision. Usually what happens is sometimes they would deny it right on the spot, or they would tell them to come back on this date, or they would say that we will make a decision and mail it out to you. But she was told to go back for the decision. But some clients or some applicants are so scared to go back. They're like, oh, are they going to detain me? Are they going to deport me on that day? What should I do? Shall I go? Should I not go? We should always go. There's always a relief available. Nobody will just deport you and put you on a plane right there and then.
And so did you go back with her? Tell me about that.
No, I did not go back with her. She did not take an attorney to the interview, but I got a call from her. She was very happy. She also called my paralegal, like, hey, and she was Arabic speaking, and I have a paralegal who speaks Arabic. So she called my paralegal and she was very happy, tears, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you so much." But she called us to let us know. And before her interview, I always prep my clients. I always tell them what to expect at the interview. So we went through the process of interview, the type of questions they might ask you. And I think that helped her a lot. And she was like, they asked exactly the similar questions. And it was very easy for her because she was already prepped for it, what to expect.
And tell me about her reaction when she found out she had been granted asylum.
She was very happy. She was very happy. I think from what I heard and from what I sensed, she was very relieved that she can now start a new life in a country without any hiccups, without struggling, without asking for anybody's help, because she could now technically work or get a green card or care for her kids, send them to school without having somebody else's support. I think that was her main priority, because I could see that she was a very independent woman. She was very educated. She was a pharmacist. So she was very educated, and I know how difficult it is to ask for somebody's help when you have been independent all your life.
And this happened, how long ago did this happen?
Sorry.
How long ago was she granted asylum?
So she gets granted asylum. It's indefinite, but then you can ask for a green card a year later.
Gotcha.
So after a year now, I think it would be this year that she would be now applying for her green card after the 1 year of the asylum grant.
And when someone's granted asylum, obviously you've worked with a lot of these clients. How does their life change afterwards? How have you seen their lives change?
Okay, let's compare somebody who's been granted asylum and somebody who's not been granted asylum, or their asylum is currently pending without a decision being made. So somebody who has a pending asylum, they can apply for work permits while the asylum is pending, but they can only do that 180 days after the petition is pending. Up until then, they cannot work. So for 6 months, you're out of work. You cannot work without authorization. So you're out of work, you cannot work. Driving license, you cannot get a driving license until an asylum is filed and you get a receipt for it. But with somebody who's being granted asylum, they get a good social security number, they can get driver license, they can work without any restrictions, they can apply for a green card straight away after 1 year. Somebody who's not being granted asylum, they are in a limbo because they don't know when their petition is going to be heard or when a decision will be made. So they just keep renewing their employment authorizations every now and then. So this ultimately gives them a right to live in the country.
Wow. Oh, and so you've done this quite a bit. And once they get the right to live in this country, what do you generally see as the path afterwards? Are they generally pretty happy to be here?
They're very happy to be here. Remember, the reason why they filed asylum is because they're scared that somebody was going to kill them, or they saw the end of it. But now you're living in a country where you are not scared of that person harming you, or you're not scared that persecution will happen. But on top, you are getting an opportunity to do something for yourself without any restrictions. I think their main concern is, for some people, is, if you don't give me a right or a green card or US citizenship, it's okay, but I just don't want to go back to my country because I will not be able to live, or I would not survive there. For everybody who files for an asylum, I think their main concern is genuine threat.
Yeah, and it is. And I feel like people are worried that people come here and take advantage of the system, but these people really have no sense of that anything's owed to them. And I feel like they work harder when these people
they're not here to take advantage. I do not think there is a way to take advantage of this system, because let's say there is a term in immigration that we call frivolous asylum cases, that people just come here because they don't have any other benefit, or they don't consider, or they don't count under any other relief, so they just file asylum because asylum is the easiest to file and asylum is going to get them work permit. But you have to remember that you will not get the advantage because your claim is frivolous. Any judge or any officer, immigration officer, immigration judge will find out, because they've been doing this for years and years, that you have a fake asylum case. So eventually, after one year or 1 month or 10 years or 10 months, you will know that all your relief or your asylum is denied. And after that, you do not have any relief. So you will just be living here. Now imagine if you do not have an asylum case, that means that you cannot renew your employment authorization card. So no EADs. Driving licenses. Now, as we're changing the driving license, how it should be, so you cannot fly on the plane, or you have to have the real ID driver's license. So let's say everything, your petitions and the immigration judge and the BIA appeal, everything is done. Then you are in the limbo where you cannot apply for anything, like no work permit or no driving license. That means that your advantage that you are trying to take has ended. So I do not think that you can take advantage of your system. Yes, they can misuse the system for a few years or few months, but that's about it really. But there are real asylum cases where people are in real need of that benefit.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Like that story you just told us. And then people also tell us a little bit more about the other types of cases that you handle in immigration, because there's a lot of different types of immigration cases, aren't there?
I practice mostly I want to say about 80% practice is immigration and 20 is around personal injury. In immigration, I handle family-based petitions, which means that a husband or like a spouse can apply for their spouses who are out of the country or inside the country. That's marriage-based petitions. Family-based petitions, a parent can file for the father, a parent can file for the child, or the child is filing for their parents. I do investor visas, so I do intra-company transfer visas, I do H-1B visas, the work permit visas, I do H-1B registrations, I do asylum cases, of course, humanitarian paroles, so all sorts of, citizenship, naturalization, how do I forget that? So I do help people become US citizens too. So all sorts of different type of cases in immigration.
And you do personal injury as well, car accidents. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, I do personal injury, car accidents mainly, and then property damage. I help my clients. If there's any property damage, I help them with that as well. Slip and fall, malpractice, that sort of cases. But I usually mostly get car accidents.
Yes, well, we're all driving a lot. Florida drivers aren't the best.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I can agree to that.
Fantastic. Roshni, this has been fantastic. We'll put a link to your website, rpatel.law. Where else are you active that people can follow you?
So I have a Facebook group, Facebook page, R Patel Law. I have an Instagram handle, R Patel Law. So yeah, you can follow me on that.
Yeah. And you've put a few videos out there on YouTube as well.
Yes, I have. I do Facebook Lives on topics that I think my clients are interested, or if something else, like for example, H-1B registration opened in March. So I would do a Facebook Live so that people can get more information. I also try to do it so I'm Gujarati, Indian, so I try to do that in my own native language so that it reaches more people.
Yes, that's fantastic. That is a great resource. We'll put a link to all these resources in the show notes. Roshni, thank you so much for being on True Law Stories.
Of course, thank you. It was my pleasure.
And thank you all for taking Roshni on your journey. This has been Hein Garlic and True Law Stories.